I was searching for relatively easy puzzles on the cracking the Cryptics Discord server. She introduced me to Missing and presented me their website, and I was able to get access to a lot of puzzles ordered by difficulty. They were always there to answer my questions or give me nudges. And today I am able to solve some of their most difficult puzzle. So I really recommend their website for anyone who is searching to get the hang of Iron Sudoku.
Many of you know them as amazing Sudoku setters, but I have the unique privilege of getting to know them as my professors. They are some of the kindest, most encouraging, most passionate people to work with, and they make their students feel like we can do anything as long as we put our minds to it. They are always available to help us with whatever we may need, and it's always with a smile on their faces. It's been a privilege to learn from them, and I hope you all enjoy hearing all about them in just a few minutes.
FullDeck and Missing a Few Cards are wonderful setters. Their website is a daily go-to. Their puzzles are logic-driven and cleverly constructed. Deductions, for me, are hard-won and all the more satisfying for that. And some of them are a sheer joy from beginning to end. Their contributions as teachers go far beyond. Some of their students have produced Sudoku that rival those of well-regarded and experienced setters. Underpinning all of this is full-hearted generosity. For example, they gave up an hour on a Sunday afternoon to teach me over Zoom to set Sudoku, and since then have been encouraging and given really good advice. They are truly lovely, wonderful people.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to FullDeck and Missing a Few Cards. How are you guys doing today?
Oh, doing well.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, looking forward to this.
Yeah. A little nervous, but looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it as well. Quickly, I will mention to you two that I turned off my camera on Discord already because I don't like these red numbers on OBS. I'd rather they stay green. So hopefully we will drop less frames if I do not have my camera, unfortunately.
That makes sense. Yeah.
This is a trivia for everyone who doesn't know. The interviewees usually can't see me. I can only see them, which is kind of weird, but it's for the frames. We do everything for the frames and for the fans. Speaking of which, the lovely people on the screen around here are lovely fans who have donated and voted on our interviewees, including FullDeck and Missing a Few Cards. But there are still some interviewees who have not gotten their votes. Chameleon, Pietato, Bill Murphy, for example, and we have a secondary way of getting these people interviewed. If we reach 1,000 subs, then everyone gets interviewed, plus 3 bonus interviews of people we have already interviewed, seeing how things have changed. Probably not ones from this season, because things probably didn't change very much. I doubt we'll see FullDeck and Missing a Few Cards back in a couple months, but who knows? Maybe. Depends how this interview goes.
That would be that exciting.
Yes, exactly.
All right, let's jump into it. So this is a very interesting question for you guys. What do you guys do for work?
What do we do?
Teach puzzles.
We are both university faculty members at. Are we going to say? We're going to say. We're going to say.
Yeah, Clemson University.
Clemson University in South Carolina, and let's see. I actually am in multiple departments. So my home department is engineering and science education in the College of Engineering, and I also have an appointment to the School of Mathematical and Statistical Sciences. I'm over in the College of Science, which is where
I'm in math and stat sciences. Yeah. And we also both teach in the Honors College, which is where we teach our puzzles and paradoxes class at the moment.
Right.
So. Yeah, we are college professors, and we have the joy and privilege of teaching puzzles on a fairly regular basis.
They told me when I was little, build the career you want to have. If you like what you do, you never go to work a day in your life. And I've managed to do that, so I'm pretty happy with that.
I like what I do, but I still go to work.
Yeah, I do too. Actually, I have to confess, it's not every day is a dream. So
Yeah, I sometimes ask people what's your dream job, but I don't think I need to ask that question either because you're living it.
yeah, I'm there. I've got it. So yeah.
We'll go right into one of Logan's questions. Do you know any good card tricks? Let's go with that.
Wait, does Logan know? Is this a plant? I asked because this past semester we've been teaching an honors course we've been teaching is the mathematics of magic, perception, and illusion. We spent the whole semester doing mathematically based card tricks. So
yes,
we know some cool magic tricks.
And if you come and enroll at Clemson, we'll teach them to you.
There you go.
Okay, they're behind a paywall, Logan, but you can you can see the card tricks if you come to this university. Okay.
I can certainly recommend some good books of card tricks.
Yeah, absolutely. And we both really like mathematically based tricks that don't depend on sleight of hand. I'm too old to do sleight of hand. I'm not good at it, can't do it. So it's really fun. We have quite a few tricks that will draw reactions of wait, what? How did that happen? From both non-mathematically inclined audiences and mathematically inclined audiences alike. So it's good fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Our students, in fact, did, because they had to learn, perform, and then explain the mathematics behind these tricks. And they wound up doing 2 magic shows this past semester, one for students who had been accepted to the university and were considering whether or not to come, and were actually finalists for major scholarships. And we have become essentially the light entertainment of this weekend, where all the scholarship finalists come to visit, because
high intensity, really terrifying weekend for the high school students. And we're there as light entertainment for the Friday lunchtime,
right
before all the interviews really get going on the Saturday.
Yeah, to kick it off and say, look, you can come to college and do interesting things that are also fun. And so they did that. And then they also did, on the last day of classes, they did a magic show for the administration and staff in the Honors College. They set up stations and they did a sort of a lunchtime show, and everybody rotated from station to station. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree with Brad. Thinks that's epic for sure.
Probably more than Logan was expecting.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I don't know. He might have been expecting a lot. They might have been expecting a lot, but yeah, definitely.
A whole magic show, maybe. Chameleon asked something sort of on this topic. What's your favorite card game or board game in general?
Oh,
I'll let you answer that one. What's your favorite board game?
What's my favorite board game? Well, that's an easy one, Scrabble. Yes. But we can come back to the Scrabble question. What's that?
Not very mathematical, but
actually, you'd be surprised. Most of the top Scrabble players in the world are either mathematicians or computer scientists, which is not what a lot of people expect. Yeah. In fact, the top player in the world for many, many years, and I think probably still the person who had the highest career winnings, was a math professor about 45 minutes from here. And I'd go over and play Scrabble at his house quite often. But yeah, so Scrabble is definitely my favorite board game. In one sense, I mean, there are other board games that I really like for just having fun, but when I'm going to be serious about a game, it's Scrabble. Hearts? I like a lot of card games. I like spades, I like hearts, I like bridge, I like cribbage, which is kind of a combination.
I used to play cribbage a lot
yeah.
many years ago with my grandfather, and I really enjoyed that. But I tend not to play many card games now.
Yeah.
I don't like being competitive, and yet when I'm playing games, I become competitive. So
yeah.
I tend not to play games.
So, yeah, no, I mean, there are very few games I just really don't like in general. And the puzzle students have introduced us to a lot of new games that I would love to play more of. They taught us how to play Flux, which was one I had not played before. They taught us, it was just so much fun. There was another one. There was one they showed us just this past.
They show us Exploding Kittens.
No, that was our kids who showed us Exploding Kittens. Not as in our kids together, but he has 2 kids, I have 2 kids, and the 4 of them are all good friends, and they're the ones who taught us Exploding Kittens. I think it was your child that introduced Exploding Kittens. One of your 2. So yeah, but yeah. So there's lots of games. Love games, but Scrabble is probably the one I've spent the most time playing and studying for even.
Interesting.
The tile tracking, yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm looking over at the chat and tile tracking. So that's an interesting thing. So I actually didn't like. So if you are playing Scrabble and playing fairly competitively, for those who don't, if you there are actually such things as Scrabble clubs and Scrabble tournaments. If you like Scrabble and you weren't aware of the tournament Scrabble scene, check it out. Lots of really fun people. But typically you do track tiles, and so there are different tracking sheets that you can use for Scrabble. And I didn't like any of them, so I actually wound up designing my own.
Are you allowed to keep notes along the way?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you're allowed to write down anything. You just can't look up words or use any sort of device to help with organize.
So it's not like playing blackjack in the casino, where if you track the cards you've seen. Oh yeah, no, that's bad.
Yeah, no, you are actually encouraged to track tiles. Yeah, and so I actually designed one that's got it's a wheel, and I divided it into chunks for the happy vowels, the A's and the E's, and the unhappy vowels, the I's, O's, and U's, and then the happy consonants, your N's and S's and R's and T's, and your unhappy consonants, your C's and your V's and your W's. Don't like those so much. And then the power tiles in the middle, and everything was sort of proportionally weighted for how many they were, so that I could just shade things in, and by looking down, know whether I had a friendly bag or an unfriendly bag. Sorry, I'm way off. I will talk about Scrabble for hours. I'll talk about Sudoku for hours. I'll talk about Scrabble for hours. Get me talking about games and puzzles. You won't shut me up. So,
well,
anyway,
I was just about to ask.
Quiet.
But maybe I'll ask FullDeck instead. If you were to be interviewed on a
No,
different
this is FullDeck. I'm missing.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry,
FullDeck.
yeah.
So
missing. I knew that, but I missed it up in my head.
No worries.
If you were to be interviewed on a different topic, what would you choose? Obviously, Scrabble.
I have a lot of soapboxes. So Scrabble, definitely I could talk for hours. I could also talk a long time about the state of education and mathematics education, but we're not going to go there today because I'm that goes a different direction on the ranting. So
For me, probably origami, cooking. Those are 2 of the big things in my life. I used to do a lot of origami, a little less now, but I cook on a daily basis, and I'm reasonably good. So I love talking about recipes with people.
Where reasonably should be defined as incredibly in this context.
What's the last meal that you made that you really liked?
I made a wonderful beef stew. We had some of our former students over for dinner. They just graduated last week.
Including Lumos. So yes, Lumos is now a college graduate.
And they all enjoyed a delicious beef stew. And liked it.
And fresh bread.
Yes.
And a lovely cheddar that is not really a cheddar, but counts as a cheddar. And
masquerades as a cheddar.
Masquerades as a cheddar. Missing has strong opinions about cheese. So no doubt correct opinions, but definitely strong opinions. So, yeah.
Okay, well, there is a lot of Sudoku stuff we should get through, so let's transition to the puzzles before you get carried away with cooking and Scrabble. So let's talk about the first puzzle that you ever set, or that you set together, or whatnot. Let's talk about that.
Well, those are two separate questions.
Those are two separate questions, and I'm going to let. So for everybody, I have a allergies and a sore throat, so I'm going to pop a cough drop real quick while you get started answering this question. So.
Okay, so I got hooked on Sudoku watching Cracking the Cryptic during the lockdown in 2020, as so many did. And over a period of months, I persuaded you eventually to look at it. The response was, no, I'm not going to look at this. I'm not going to watch this video. And I finally said, no, watch this video. And I guess to try and shut me up, you did. And
that was exactly what it was. I was like, fine.
And then that Christmas, presented me with a gift, which was a Sudoku puzzle based around some ideas that had formed part of my PhD thesis, some free sets of integers. And my reaction was, wait, you can set Sudoku puzzles? Ordinary people could do that? Not say that you're ordinary, but yeah, just you can do that?
Yeah.
And then followed by, can you show me how to do that? I had no idea about the software to use or the methods to do it or how you would even get started setting a Sudoku puzzle. So the very first one was a puzzle involving sets of integers where no two can add up to a third in the set. Mm-hmm. And I will say it was not the greatest Sudoku.
No, it is not. Absolutely is not the greatest.
Lovely concept. Yeah. Lovely concept.
Clunky, lots of different constraints, and if you don't know what complete sum free set is, it is.
Don't worry.
Not accessible. I mean, but it was intended as a gift for one person, not for broader distribution. That was my first puzzle, so.
And much appreciated. And then a few days later, it was certainly still before New Year's Eve and after Christmas Day. I said, show me how to do this. And we sat down. I don't remember which one we set first. The first puzzle I remember us setting together was probably one of the monthly prompt puzzles we did.
No, we set before that because we did salt and pepper while I was at the beach, and we did it over Zoom. And we had set a few before that. So.
Okay. So certainly the thing that got us really setting was probably the monthly puzzle prompt in the Discord server in the CTC Discord server. And I guess it was food that month. And we set several puzzles and I enjoyed it. And then we discovered LMD and put some things up on LMD and started putting them into testing in the Discord server. And didn't think anything more of it, really. Right. Just, we'll set puzzles for fun. And then a few months later, I've been teaching a course for the Honors College for many years and had taught a course on puzzles and paradoxes that didn't even touch on any sort of Sudoku. And I said, what do you think? Should we try co-teaching and do a significant portion of it on Sudoku? And hence the puzzles class was born. And we've gone from there. We started teaching how to set and encouraging students to solve on camera and to send puzzles into channels like Bremster. Yeah. And
so I set, I think, just the one puzzle by myself, and then we set several together. And then, but even for the first few we set together, a lot of it was, it was very much both of us together rather than, the point where I'm going with this, as I wander widely through meaninglessness, is that at one point along the way in the summer, Missing said, we're going to be teaching them to set, but I've never set anything solo because we'd only been setting together. And
this is actually in class.
Was it? Oh, it was after the semester started? I had forgotten that. That's right. Because it was like, in a couple of weeks, we're teaching them to set. That's right. And so he said, I need to go try to set some just by myself, and came back having set 7 puzzles in about 2 hours and was just on fire with setting. So that was fun.
They were all pretty gassy puzzles, reasonably simple, nothing too complex. It was, as much as anything, making sure I could handle all of the aspects of setting without having to rely on you to do everything.
So that was sort of how, and now these days we still almost always set together, but there'll be times, because we set ourselves a challenge at the start of this year to post a puzzle every single day this year on our website. And so far we've done it.
136 days running?
Yes. But there are times that we just don't have time in the day to sit down and set a puzzle together. So there are now some times that one of us will set the puzzle or set most of the puzzle, and then we'll test it together, or the other will test it, or we'll make tweaks together.
Yeah.
But we still mostly set all of our puzzles really together, sitting next to each other, working on a keyboard. So,
and with our background in mathematics, we both know of the mathematicians Hardy and Littlewood, who were great number theorists of the early part of the 20th century. And they were the first mathematicians really to collaborate on a long-term basis. And they wrote enough papers together that there was a joke that the 3 best mathematicians in England were Hardy, Littlewood, and Hardy Littlewood.
Yeah.
That if you just considered their joint contributions, they would have been a great mathematician, by themselves,
separate
together.
from either of their solo records. Yeah.
So they had some rules for collaboration, which one of the rules essentially said, anything we're both thinking about will be joint work, even if one person does 90% of the work and one does 10, and we'll still list it as Hardy and Littlewood, because in mathematics we list alphabetically. So we've adopted that, the Hardy Littlewood rules. If you go to our website, we've got a link to where you can find out more about that on the About page about us. So we adopted mostly the Hardy Littlewood rules, and we tell our students to work by the Hardy Littlewood rules. They're good rules.
They are.
And so we publish all of our puzzles as FullDeck and missing a few cards, because FullDeck comes first alphabetically. If we're publishing math papers, then since my name comes first, my surname comes up first alphabetically, I'm the first author, because that's the way it works in math. And then there's the one paper we wrote about Sudoku.
Yes.
So I forget how that was credited.
We did it under our legal names, not our setting names. Yeah.
So often times when you're featured on Back in the Cryptic or whatnot, Simon will mention that you two are some famous mathematicians. Is that true?
I'm not. He is. I'm not. So
your career is focused on more along the lines of math education and science education in general. So it's not your area of specialization.
Right.
I have had a couple of things that I did that gave me some small notoriety in a good way. So I would not describe myself as a famous mathematician, but I have a paper that has hundreds of citations, and I'm very proud of that.
Yes, you also describe yourself as a reasonably good cook. So
yes, I am a reasonably good cook.
So we actually were just out in California. We went out to collaborate with some folks out there, and Missing gave a talk while we were out there, and we went out to dinner with some of the mathematicians from the department afterwards, and one of them. So this is not an atypical reaction. We went out there through my connections in mathematics education research. he gave the math talk, and one of the mathematicians at this university was just falling all over himself. It was wonderful to see. He was so excited. And apparently, when my contact in mathematics education had gone to the group of mathematicians to whom Missing gave the talk and said, well, we might be having a speaker later this semester, and said Missing's name. And this person thought he was joking. And it was like, this is one of the people I've always wanted to meet. You're joking. There's no way. Why would he come here? And so that's when you say you're somewhat. No, yeah, you've. Yes, he's got the
I have some notoriety.
Yes, well deserved. I don't. I'm nothing in that arena. So, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
So let's see, DreamLibrarian, how did you settle on your Sudokunyms? Do you want to handle that?
So, sure. So when I set that first puzzle for Missing, it was at Christmas, and my birthday is in late November. So I had just turned 52. And so we commented, or he commented that I needed a setting name. And I said, I guess, only if I'm going to set more puzzles and people other than you are going to see them, which was... we decided was going to happen. And so I said, I guess I'll have to come up with a setting name. He said, well, you just turned 52, so how about FullDeck? And so that's how FullDeck came to be.
And then I'm not 52 anymore, so I've started losing cards.
So
I'm now missing a few cards.
So, and it was funny that the first several, because everything we put out was with both names, it was several months before we started seeing comments about, wait, there are two people? I thought it was one person. Wait, what is this setting name? Why would you? And so people realizing that there are two of us and that we are separate individuals with two different setting names was pretty fun. It didn't even occur to us that might be taken as a single person. So
it does kind of sound like a single person. FullDeck and missing a few cards. Like, that makes sense. That is one name.
Schizophrenic.
It's a very long name, but
yeah, it is. And before we, so we had some collaboration with Crusader 175 early on, and at that point, none of us knew how to edit a JSON. I still don't know how to edit a JSON. So fitting the full name in was not going to happen. Crusader 175, FullDeck, and missing a few cards does not fit in the name, the puzzle author box in FPuzzles. I think that one was set as Crusader 175 and missing deck. And that's the point at which we also said, well, maybe we should have a website. And that's actually when we started the website as missingdeck.net. So missing deck sort of flips our names and just picks up a piece of each. So, yeah.
So Blobs asks favorite constraints to mix into the same puzzle. I am always a fan of anti-knight and killer cages. I mean, I just love the way those two interact.
Yeah.
So probably a quarter or more of the puzzles I take the lead on setting will be will get the reaction, oh, you're not doing cages and anti-knight again, are you?
Yep. I mean, I like them. I like them as a...
Radfink says, wait, why did I never know you had a website?
You didn't know about our website, Radfink? Oh, yeah. Missingdeck.net. Here, I can pop it into chat. We have
in the description as well.
It's
in the description of the video.
Okay, I won't. I'll be good. I'll behave.
So Radfinks, we've been releasing a puzzle a day since January 1st on our website, and there's about 200 on top of that available there.
So you kind of touched on the name of the site, Missing Deck, but why exactly did you feel the need to start a website with all your puzzles?
So there is a conference every 2 years called Gathering for Gardener.
Oh, right. Yes, that's why it happened.
That's why it happened. And the Gathering for Gardener is in celebration of Martin Gardner. And some of you may have heard the name Martin Gardner, others may not.
He loved math and puzzles and magic and physics and skepticism.
And popularizing those for the general audience.
He wrote around 100 books of popularization of science and math and magic and all sorts of things like this. And at one point, it was really hard to get an invitation to attend this conference.
Right. And so I wanted to go to this conference. Missing has been going for years, and it only happens every 2 years. And there's an application process. You have to apply. And one of the things, in order to sort of show your chops and that you should be entitled to come to this conference, is you can put a website up. And so it's like, how better to let people see puzzles that we've created? So we very quickly built a website, actually just using Adobe Spark, and put the puzzles up there so that the review committee for applying to this conference could have something to look at. But it turned out then that we liked having that as a repository for our puzzles, because we tend to lose things and are not as organized as we might like to be otherwise. And so then we moved it from Spark to something that was a little bit more robust, but it was even still getting really clunky. So we then actually, to streamline it and make it easier to put puzzles up, we had a student intern, a computer science major, set it up so that now there's a whole database of puzzles, and to put in a new puzzle, we just have to put information into a Google form and it automatically populates on the website where it should go, and things are searchable. And
It's nice.
it's very nice. And we really like being able to look back and see the puzzles. And we also use it as a place to collect all of the student puzzles. So not all of them are up yet. There are probably now I'm down to about 100 that I need to put up. I had it down to about 50, and then the semester started again. And so the students generate puzzles more quickly than we do. So I'll continue putting those up over the summer. But we also have that as a place that we can have in a single place any of the video solves that have been done of our puzzles, or guest solves that we've done, or guest solves that our students have done, or video features of our students' puzzles. So just sort of anything that
Is related to
is
our
related
puzzles.
to us doing this. And so, in fact, we'll link to the recording of this live stream on the website later. And partly that's for our own sakes, because we are definitely bears of very little brain at times, and having to go back and find these things. I mean, I have to put in an annual report. I have another 16 days to get in all of my activities over the past year. So having all of this on the website so that I can just go pull it from there and dump it into this report that goes to my department chair will make life much easier. And so that's one of the things that I learned long ago as a faculty member, is to have a system for keeping track of the things you do, because otherwise you will forget and it won't show up anywhere. So this is our system for keeping track of our Sudoku related activities. So, yeah.
Great.
And I think the other thing is that the other thing I think is that we wanted to share our puzzles.
Yes.
And there are a couple of modes that people go for that. One is to have puzzles put out as a Patreon.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate in having jobs where we don't need to support ourselves by selling puzzles, and we're happy to just have them out there. And so a website seemed like a reasonable place to collect them.
Yeah.
We're very lucky that
Can I interject there for a second? I should. Yeah. I've been meaning to mention this. I thought about this a while ago, but I should mention, while there's 28 people in here, that the Patreon that I run is more so a not-for-profit, so I sort of like funnel back the profits into the channel, just so everyone is clear on that. I've never stated that before, so I need to state that at some point. So why not in the middle of an interview?
There you go.
Yeah. No, it's an important thing to say.
And we're really glad that so many people do have Patreons, because I think it's a really, really nice way to have that community support and that community building. But again, we are really fortunate, especially in today's world, that we have very stable jobs with financial comfort. And so, we know there are a lot of people who want to financially support the Sudoku community. We certainly contribute to a collection of Patreons, and we would much rather that people who want to put that money into the community give it to others who are not perhaps as fortunate as we are in terms of having a job where we get to do Sudoku. We effectively get paid to do Sudoku through our jobs, because we teach it It's part of what we do. And so, yeah, it would feel a little like double dipping if we did.
Well, so also we've had a few people contact us since we
Yes.
put out the Signet series.
Yeah.
One person very generously wanted to thank us for putting it
Yes.
out. And so we have set up a fund
Yes.
that will, if we get donations, we have a Ko-fi account, for
Yeah.
example. We're not saying send us money on Ko-fi,
No,
but
no.
anybody who does can be assured that we will be putting it towards supporting students to go to SudokuCon or related types of puzzle events.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
More like a scholarship
Speaking
fund than a
Yeah,
donate
very much so.
to FullDeck and Disambiguation.
Yeah, and it would really be more towards our students. I mean, we
Yeah.
will manage it.
not
And,
necessarily our students.
well, students in general. Yeah. Yeah. So. for
Are
sure.
there other people in your department who are interested in what you guys are doing?
So I actually have a postdoctoral research scholar coming to work with me this fall. They're finishing up their PhD in June, actually in just about 3.5 weeks. And their whole PhD is on the fun of mathematics in classrooms and sort of a theoretical framework for studying what makes something fun. Where's the math? Where's the fun? Where's the engagement? And how do they all play together? And so I'm actually really excited about them joining the department and about them becoming part of this community that we have. But yeah, there are lots of other folks who are interested in this in our immediate spheres at the university. But there's also a lot of folks elsewhere who are doing this. And I think Rockrat's in the chat. I saw Rockrat Zero's in. And so Rockrat Zero, we've been working with him and with Zeta Math and some other folks. And we're looking at this idea of teaching variant Sudoku, because Rockrat Zero teaches variant Sudoku, as does Zeta Math. And so looking at what we're doing in common, what we're doing differently, and how to make what we do
Building a framework that others can
possible
use.
For others. Yeah. So that's
and creating materials that they can use.
Yeah. So that's in early stages, but well, early stages in some parts of it and later stages in other. But if anybody is interested in knowing more about that, just reach out to us. We're excited to talk, as you can tell.
Do you think you could
Don't
comment on...
start talking about Sudoku.
Yeah. What was that?
Do you think you could comment on the main differences that you discovered when discussing with Zeta Math and Rockrat Zero? Like, are there any fundamental disagreements on how to teach Sudoku?
Well, there's more differences in the sort of the outer structure of what is there. So we are teaching it as a 3-unit semester-long course for honor students. We'd like to teach it for general education. We're working on that with our university to be able to offer this same course for folks who need a math class to graduate that teaches mathematical reasoning, but it doesn't have to have particular content. That's still in the works. But they have different structures that they use. So Zeta Math's course is really focused around creativity and the creativity of setting and constructing variant Sudoku puzzles. And
it's a 1-month intensive course as opposed to a full semester, less intensive.
And then Rockrat Zero has a seminar course that is, I think, only 1 unit. Is that right? Yeah, 1 unit. And he can correct me if I'm wrong in there. But so very different structures, and those are imposed externally by our institutions, and that constrains what you can do or where your focus is. And so that's been really fun to talk about. Zeta Math has developed so many materials that are just fabulous that he's made available to us, and we're doing the same back so that he can use those. And then Rockrat has different stuff. And part of what we want to do is in this project is look at, okay, what are the commonalities? What are the pieces that should be there for any type of implementation? But then where are the variations? Like if you would want to tailor it to your own particular institution and audience, what are some options that you would have? And what does that mean for the curriculum? What does that mean for how do you pitch it to your department, to your university, and to the students, and to get students excited and interested? So, yeah.
As far as the difference in puzzles by Zeta Math and Rockrat Zero, I think probably we aim at a gentler level of puzzle. We tend to enjoy puzzles that we can do in 20 or 30 minutes that will stretch us and make us think, but not take 2 hours.
Yeah.
And certainly Zetamath, I know him for setting puzzles that really break my brain.
Yeah.
And you know, it's great to have people doing that.
Yeah.
But they're not the puzzles I'll go to on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Oh, I have 20 minutes here.
Right.
I want to do a puzzle.
I cannot finish a Zetamath puzzle in 20 minutes typically. So
Rockrat Zero, I think, is again a step up in difficulty from where we
tend to be.
Yeah. Although he does set some simpler puzzles.
He does
sometimes.
some very nice ones.
I really like
both of them.
Both of them. I really like their puzzles.
Yes, very much.
They're inspiring in terms of, oh, I like that idea. I wonder if we could borrow that.
And both of them are much better than we are at creating sort of a visual theme.
Yeah.
And you know, one of Rockrat Zero's puzzles that I don't know if he's ever published it anywhere, but it's basically it's a Mario Brothers game. I mean, you can see there's squids and there's coins and it's one that he shared with us, but I probably should keep my mouth shut because I don't know if it's publicly available or anything. But yeah, they are both fabulous at the aesthetics of the visual components of puzzles. So yeah. But let's
I've just seen a question by Kenneth Palmer.
I know, and we should probably be interviewed. What's that?
You can answer questions in the chat if you don't. Yeah.
Okay. Well, because that's what we've been doing. So thank you for the permission. We're just sort of going off and having fun here. So let's see. How do we find balance together in awesomeness and puzzling? Well, I'm not so sure about the awesomeness.
No, but puzzling.
I wonder does he mean balance between puzzling and life, or between the two of us as we set and solve puzzles?
I don't know. And
why don't we answer both of them?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh dear. Okay, so balancing between puzzles and life. Well, this is where being a tenured faculty member comes to your advantage, because we've managed to just steer our jobs to a point where puzzling is a part of our life. I mean, the semesters that we are teaching puzzling, which is now every semester, whether it's a course or a research project, that means that for us, we really need to set aside a couple of hours every day to test student puzzles. What a horrible life. And also we need to find time to set puzzles. What a horrible life.
And yes, we do bring puzzles into the classroom. Which,
absolutely.
Hopefully Kenneth Palmer will be able to go back and listen to the beginnings of the interview and hear about our work with puzzles and paradoxes and the like.
And we also bring the puzzles into classrooms that aren't necessarily focused on that content when it's appropriate to do so. So, for example, I often teach a capstone course for mathematics majors, the last math class they take before they go out into their student teaching in high schools. And so I'll often set aside a day or two to introduce the puzzles, introduce them to the website, sort of talk about the mathematics that they can develop with that, because every K-12 teacher out there knows that there are days when you are just not going to get through content in the classroom. It's a short day because of a school assembly, or it's the day before holidays, or you've just had exams or whatever, and you're there and you need to do something that's related to the content, but you're not going to get through stuff that is directly leading to a particular assessment. So something like this, where you've got variant Sudoku puzzles that are going to develop mathematical reasoning, that are engaging, that can be worked on in small groups, but that they don't have something that you have to get to a certain stopping point, is really valuable for a teacher to have in their back pocket. So it makes sense for me to talk about that for a day, to introduce it to the future teachers as a resource they can use. You've talked about it in your programming classes, where you talk about some pieces. So we'll bring them into other classrooms and other settings as well. Kind of at the drop of a hat, but only when it's actually an appropriate setting to do it. So, and in terms of balance between ourselves in puzzling, there have certainly been some times that we've butted heads.
Oh yeah.
But
with people.
Yeah. we've discovered that trying to solve puzzles that are sort of gas level together is mostly just frustrating because whoever's at the keyboard is mostly becomes a stenographer, while the other gets to see all the fun deductions. So we like to solve harder puzzles together, puzzles where we do get stuck and we need to wait for one of us to see sort of, oh, wait, that.
But harder could mean like a 5 on a James Sinclair scale.
Right.
It's
yeah, or even just a 2-star on an LMD scale.
Yeah.
But in terms of setting, sometimes we dive in and just sort of we each start putting things in. Sometimes one person will have a specific idea and the other is more sitting back and suggesting things, but trying not to take offense if that suggestion isn't taken. But yeah, so it's mostly just a matter of respect and the fact that we enjoy doing this together, and puzzling together is such a treat that we don't want to ruin it. So, and we think very differently. But I think locally, when we're solving a puzzle, I'm really looking at sort of what's happening in this cell or what in this little chunk. What is this single constraint or this interaction of constraints?
I'm looking around the grid and seeing long distance interactions.
Yeah. So there are puzzles that we get through together that I don't think I could get through on my
either
own.
of us.
Yeah. So that's really nice. And it's really nice to have somebody who sees things differently. And I see things differently now than I did before we solved so much together, and vice versa.
And we've also been solving online a bit, or at least recording ourselves. We've guest solved on Bremster's YouTube channel a few times.
Yeah.
And that was terrifying at first. And after 3 or 4 times, it became much less so, to the extent now that if somebody sends us a puzzle to test, we will frequently just fire up OBS and record us solving it and send them back. Instead of our solve path, we'll, let them see how we actually got through it.
Yeah.
Which can be great fun for the setter who's screaming at the screen, "You're missing the deduction! You're missing the deduction!"
Yeah. And it's easier for us to just do the recording and send the link than to type up, here's what we did then, and this is where we got stuck. Just watch it. So not quite sure how to take that, Radfix, but
so we do joke that I am the teller in the Penn and Teller of FullDeck and Missing a Few Cards. For those who don't know Penn and Teller, they're American magicians, and Penn talks a lot and Teller never talks.
It was how many months before you said anything on Discord?
I thought you were going to stop at said anything.
On that note, I'm going to pop another cough drop. You get to answer the next question.
Okay, next question.
I was going to ask, in relation to the balance between the two of you, has there ever been a time where you disagreed so much on something that you were studying that you produced 2 puzzles, one with one person's idea and one with another person's idea?
That sounds too much like the puzzles bifurcated into 2 different puzzles. That's probably happened, but I can't think of an explicit example. But there have certainly been times when one of us has had a setting idea and I've objected. No, there have been times when one of us had a setting idea and the other one has not found it entrancing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've gone ahead and set a puzzle, or I've gone ahead and set a puzzle, and the other one has gone off and set a completely different puzzle.
Yeah.
So yes, it's happened.
There have also been a couple of times that we've agreed on a starting point and then gone and proceeded from that point and then shared what we each came up with. Yeah.
And found that they break.
And then something that I was going to ask way back when we were talking about the class is, how do you approach the teaching of Sudoku creation to students with different levels of mathematical background?
Well, we don't assume essentially any level of mathematical background. In fact, one of our favorite students, all of our students are our favorites, by the way, but one of our favorite students, the first time we taught the course, introduced herself on the first day with, "I'm terrified of puzzles. I'm taking this course as a stretch. I want this to challenge me." And by the end of the semester, proudly proclaimed how much she loved puzzles. And she was not a mathematically sophisticated person. She had not had a lot of math classes. Her major was nothing mathematical in the slightest. So when we start with setting, we teach it, certainly we teach it as a process of getting the software working, how to work the software. And that is one of the more challenging things at the beginning, particularly getting F puzzles set up. So we teach them both F puzzles and Sudoku Maker.app. We've never taught anyone to use PenPal because we don't know how to use it. But we do teach both Sudoku Maker.app and F puzzles construction. We also try and get them to think about how puzzles should work. And I like to say, think about taking the grid that you're constructing and pushing information around and looking at the interactions of the constraints you're putting in here with another part of the puzzle. So again, the global thinking.
Yeah.
And setting intentionally is a phrase that we use a lot. So setting with intentionality. And we've taught probably 40 students and maybe another half a dozen or a dozen people to set puzzles. So somewhere around 50 people. And those seem to work reasonably well. Many of the people have had a mathematical background, but others maybe very little recent math in their lives.
And
Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Well, I want to add one little piece to it as well, which is that we have found that both solving and setting variant Sudoku actually really strengthen and develop some of those mathematical skills. So anybody that we're working with in college, they already have some degree of number fluency. So the idea of
they made it into college.
They made it into college. So the idea of cages, for example, where digits don't repeat and they sum to this value, they may not know they may not immediately know, oh, it's a 3-cell 7 cage. There's only one way to make that up. But it doesn't take long to start developing that. And so that kind of reasoning is fairly easy for all of the students we've worked with. Ideas of how do you justify a deduction? How do you articulate ideas like X-wings, ideas like pointing pairs? Those are more sophisticated ways of communicating mathematical reasoning.
But they don't require somebody to already have a level of sophistication mathematically for them to start thinking about this. There was one puzzle that Simon solved fairly early on, which was the coloring one. What was it called?
One of ours? Or?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
He called it Modular Miracle. We called it
Cross-about Dominoes.
Cross-about Dominoes, yeah.
And that had a whole bunch of people in the comments saying, wait, can we prove this is always true? Does this always have to happen? And these were not people, I assume, with a sophisticated mathematical background. From the way the comments were phrased, some of them were just saying, how do we show this always has to be the case? That's very much a mathematical question. But it can be asked by people without a sophisticated mathematical background.
Yeah. And then developing that way of answering it actually develops some of the mathematics that we want people to walk away with. So, yeah, it's really fun.
That's a great answer. Microstudy had asked a question, which I think is relevant to what we're talking about. What things have you learned from your students while teaching them how to set?
corner marks and center marks are really hard to teach.
Yeah. Or rather, we need to approach teaching corner marks and center marks in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way we tried to teach that the first time, it managed to confuse a lot of the students. And, you know, I hate beating things out of students, but we had to beat some bad habits out of these students.
But also, so that's more about learning to teach. But things that we've learned how freeing this is for so many students.
Yeah.
We've had so many students who have said, this is the most fun I've ever had in a college class. And the joy that we see from that, it is really, I mean, I knew it sort of on an intellectual level, but to see it enacted in people, even people who are in science, technology, engineering, mathematics disciplines, so many have sort of need permission to have fun with mathematics again. That idea of math can be fun, puzzles can be fun, that you can do serious things while having fun has hit me in new ways from teaching this class, and from teaching people in general about variant Sudoku. And again, I knew that up here, but knowing it here is really different. We've had some students who've constructed puzzles that I'm like, I don't know how you came up with that. That is such a brilliant, brilliant puzzle.
Our students have blown us away.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
multiple occasions.
Yeah, there's one of all of the puzzles that they've set. I'm really proud of them for, but some of them have been. I have learned some things about interactions between pairs of constraints because of puzzles that they've set that just stun me with the beauty of it sometimes. So yeah. And Blobs, you've learned to love yin-yang, right? I'm not so sure about love yet, but working on it. The toes are in the yin-yang water.
We were very lucky. We got a chance
we
to
so
meet
enjoyed that.
Blobs and
Mrs. Blobs, yes,
in person about 10 days ago.
Yeah,
and we sat down and we decided we should think about setting a puzzle. So the four of us sat down.
Yes.
And
after an absolutely delicious dinner, we mentioned beef stew earlier. Well, Ms. Blobs made beef stew 10 days ago as well, and they were on par with each other. And so now, Blobs, you know how good last night's beef stew was because it's done. But yeah, so after dinner we sat down and
and we had never set a yin-yang or sightlines puzzle, and Blobs has been setting a number of them recently. So
yeah.
He was good enough to talk us through some of the process of getting started with that.
Yeah.
So I won't say we've learned to love setting yin-yang yet. We haven't set any more since that day.
No, well, we also have barely had a chance to breathe since we got back. It has been nonstop with we are. Every day has been, what do we have to get done today in order to survive till tomorrow, with deadlines and things. So we're looking forward to, over the next week to 10 days, getting caught up and having just some fun with puzzles again. So, yeah.
Speaking of yin-yang, Isaiah had asked, are you ever going to set pencil puzzles, and if so, what kind?
We've set puzzles other than Sudoku.
We have.
We have set puzzles that people often solve with pencils. We have set some cryptic crossword puzzles, which has been something I have enjoyed doing for years. Almost more years than FullDeck's been around. And no, more years than FullDeck's been around. Not by many. But I don't think that will be the sort of puzzle that you're meaning.
Right. I mean, we've not said any Nurikabe or Heiawake or anything like that.
We don't solve enough of those to think about setting them.
I think that maybe after we retire, we might, because at that point, we will have time. We might have our Sudoku buckets full and still have time in the day. Right now, even though we have managed to build it into our jobs in important ways, we still don't have enough time to do Sudoku, as much Sudoku as we would like. So maybe down the road.
Yeah.
But
Michael Matter asks, Matter? Yeah.
Cryptics, yes, we love cryptic crosswords.
But are those on the website?
Oh, are they on the website?
The answer is no, because we've not said any that we're proud enough yet.
No, but perhaps we will do so in the future.
Yeah, we have individual cryptic clues that we love.
Oh, we do. We have some wonderful cryptic clues.
We have not yet constructed a puzzle with...
We've constructed some in the class.
Yes.
We have done some small ones and some for our students. But we haven't published any full puzzles anywhere yet, but we might think about that.
So my feeling about that is I can set a cryptic in a reasonable... Sorry, I can set a variant Sudoku in a reasonable amount of time. And a cryptic is going to take me days.
Or weeks. I mean, the ones that we've set that we've really been happy with, we get the grid set up and then we just sort of slowly pick away at the clues. And we'll have we have a Discord server that's just us, just for all of this, organizing all of this. And so we have a Cryptics channel in our own little server, and we'll have a thread for a puzzle, and we'll have the picture, then we'll have each of the clues, and we'll just keep going back in and editing and refining the clues. But a lot of times those just then sit there, and we've got some whole puzzles that are just sitting there that I think are really pretty nice, but we just haven't done anything with them yet. So oh, you're 9% sneaky. Oh, fun.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, we love your puzzles.
Yes. So.
The other question that I've been dying to ask since the other live stream that we did together is, how do you guys, I don't know if I asked this actually, how do you guys assess your students throughout the course? How does that work?
Oh, what a wonderful question.
That is a great question.
So glad you asked
Yes.
that. So I'll get started and then you can take over.
Okay.
So I have long been an opponent of timed tests, of having to hit every level at every benchmark period in the course. I've long believed that if a student can master the material in a course by the final exam and demonstrate that true mastery, then they should get a good grade in the course. Yeah. And when I am teaching a course and have the freedom to do that, I will always make that my grading policy. And then FullDeck mentioned to me the concept of ungrading. I'd heard of mastery-based grading, and I had attempted to do some things with that, not particularly well. Grading is something I'm spectacularly bad at. And so when FullDeck mentioned the concept of ungrading, my ears pricked up, and I said, tell me more. So tell us more.
So ungrading, at its core, ungrading is a shift in perspective where rather than assignments being handed in to an instructor who then puts a score on it, the goal is to make those assignments more of a conversation and to put that idea of assessment back on the hands of the person who actually knows best what they've learned or not learned, in the sense of what they've internalized and how they've engaged with the content. So, and there are lots of different ways to implement it, but what we decided to try the first outing with puzzles and paradoxes, and I apologize, again, cough drops, because otherwise I'm going to go into a coughing fit. That'll be no fun for anyone. So, and we wrote up our plan. We ran it past the committee that oversees the course we were teaching to make sure we had everybody on board and that we weren't going to get yelled at down the road, because we don't like being yelled at. And what we did was we have lots of assignments. We give lots of feedback. They give lots of peer feedback. At the midterm, we have them write a reflection paper in which they say, here's the grade I think I deserve based on my work so far. And here's the evidence that I can present as it lines up against the different learning objectives for the course. And so that evidence might include puzzles they've created, puzzles they've solved, interactions they've had in class, new insights they've gained, and so on.
How they've grown as an individual.
Yeah. And depending on what the learning outcomes are, right? I mean, they have to tie it back to what is it we're trying to get out of this class. And then we look at that, and if we feel like the evidence that they have presented lines up with the grade that they have suggested for themselves, we'll just say we agree. If we disagree, we have a conversation. And then if they're not happy at midterm with what they feel like they have earned to date, they also write up what they plan to do for the rest of the class to get to the grade they think they'd like to have. And then the midterm one is not binding at all. I mean, it's not as though we average the two. It is simply as a checkpoint and a calibration point. And then they do the same at the end of the course.
They enter the course absolutely terrified.
Oh gosh, yeah. This seems like the worst idea in the world to them. So yeah.
But by the time the third or fourth iteration of us doing this, we had different courses we were teaching, but there were repeat students. A lot of our students have really enjoyed the courses we've taught, and so have taken other courses with us. And so word gets around. We'll have 3 students out of 19 who have encountered ungrading with us and are there to reassure the other 16 students in the class that no, this is not as terrifying as you think it is.
Yeah. And
that's a
so far we've never had to
from DreamLibrarian.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually we have never had to argue a student down on a grade, but we have had several conversations of, we think you're not valuing your work highly enough. The evidence that you've presented lines up better with this next grade up than what you've presented for yourself.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So Ratfings asks, how do we prevent them undergrading themselves? We have a meeting with them to discuss this, to say, we think you're not evaluating yourself fairly. Here are the reasons we think that your self-worth is higher than you are seeing it. And I know how hard it is to see one's own self-worth. I never suffer from that myself. We have not had a problem. We have experienced students undervaluing their work, but we haven't had a problem with it.
Yeah, but we certainly expected that going in. The committee we ran it past also expected that going in, and so that's one reason we put in the calibration point midterm. But also it provides a vehicle to have some really important conversations, because especially the students in the honors college, they put a lot of pressure on themselves. They have trouble seeing where they stand out, what their achievements are. They tend to sort of think that they never quite measure up, despite being some of the top students at the university. And that's particularly true for folks who are from historically marginalized or excluded populations in whatever field they're in. So we have found that our students of color and our women are more likely to undervalue their achievements. And that opens the door to some really important conversations about rating your own work, about seeing your own self-value and your own accomplishments, and having that ability to see your strengths and argue for your strengths rather than focusing on areas that could still be improved for growth, because everybody's got those. And so we actually see that as a really important life skill for them as well. Is if you think about going into any sort of performance review at a job or anything else, you want to focus on your strengths. Nobody's perfect. Nobody will ever be perfect. There's never going to be anybody who hits every single benchmark for every single piece of a job.
The other thing is that we start on day one with suggestions for the students on how to keep track of what they're doing so that they can appreciate their own achievements and give them ways to measure their own effectiveness and their own successes so that they can recognize them. So we try and build that in from the first day of the class. And that's not something I've really internalized before, but it's definitely something we need to think about emphasizing even more on the first day of class in the fall.
And we have actually had one of the students at the end of the semester actually in their reflection paper talk about that process of keeping a log being so important to seeing their own growth, their own achievements, and being able to have that evidence at their fingertips for arguing for something. And that's something that they're going to carry with them into their post-university life, into the workforce, of keeping a journal of some type so that they've got it right there that they can look back at to see what they've done so well. So it's it was, we were nervous about it the first time.
I still am nervous about it every time.
But we really see a lot of that. Now, I don't think this would work in every class. I'm teaching a class this summer that is like the math class that people who are terrified of math have to take in order to graduate. They don't want to be there. They just want to get past the class. And this is unfortunately a coordinated course where I don't get to do things other than the way the university has said you must do them this way. But even if I could, I probably wouldn't do ungrading in that class because they're coming into it with I just need to check this off rather than there's a reason I want to learn this content and master this content intrinsically. And over the summer with only 5 weeks, I wouldn't feel confident in my ability to change that internal mindset sufficiently to make the ungrading really serve the purpose I would want it to serve. So I'm certainly not saying ungrading is the answer to everything in all situations, but we've found it to be absolutely perfect for this particular setting.
And for other courses, I would not use it, but I might, for example, use mastery-based grading for some of the other courses I do. And others, I'll go the traditional route.
Gundi had asked, what part of teaching Sudoku/logic do you enjoy the most?
When I see light bulbs go off over students' heads. Which is true for everything I teach. It's when I see a student struggle to understand something and then get it. And see the way their face changes and the delight, particularly for something like teaching puzzles. The delight when they get it right, when they get it internally correct.
And I love it when they turn that corner. So the first few times they set a puzzle, and if they're setting in F puzzles, so when they put in something that breaks the puzzle and all the big red X's come up. And the first couple of times that happens, they're like, oh no. And then they get to the point, they're like, oh, I broke it. What broke it? What's going on? Why did this not work? And then that excitement when they see what it is and what the interactions are in the grid that broke a piece of it. And then they turn around and they say, okay, what can I do instead so that instead of it breaking the puzzle, it showcases that. I mean, that's just such a fun moment when they go from that sense of, oh, if I get big red X's, I've done something wrong. I'm going to fail the class. I'm going to wind up living in a gutter, homeless and penniless, and to, ooh, this is an exciting moment to learn something new and figure out something. That to me, this mindset shift, I love it. It's magical. And once that happens, they take off as setters. It's fabulous.
And there's another thing I'll say, and this actually relates back to the ungrading as well. When we were teaching cryptic crosswords, I have a very strong memory of a couple of people who set some beautifully funny cryptic clues and told them to us. And we ended up just bursting out laughing. And immediately said to these two relatively shy and somewhat insecure students, now make sure you make a note of this in your daily log because we want you to put in your self-reflection, there was a day when I made FullDeck and Missing a Few Cards laugh because the clue was so good.
That's wonderful.
So
Egbert asked, what do you wish you knew about setting when you just started?
oh
Everything.
yeah, everything.
It was so intimidating to me that you were able to set a puzzle. It was
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah.
In our first few puzzles, so we set some puzzles for friends and family members who are not experts at variant Sudoku or Sudoku at all. And so we massively overclued some puzzles.
Yeah.
And they are not the best puzzles. They're on our website.
They are. Yes.
They are not the best puzzles on our website.
Yes, actually, in fact, if you do an archaeological dig through the website in the archive, our earliest puzzles are at the very bottom. A lot of them are really not particularly good.
No.
But we're going to keep them up there anyway because, growth is such an important thing.
Yeah. I think that these days, if we were setting puzzles for that same group of people,
Be very different.
it would be very different. We'd probably start with no marks.
Yeah.
And instead of just massively overcluing with Kropke dots and
Yeah.
XVs, which is what we did in the first few. Something we try and teach our students that I certainly learned is don't throw the kitchen sink at the puzzle.
Yeah.
Stick
to one or two constraints. Yeah.
We don't always do that.
No, we don't. Sometimes we'll do more. And sometimes there's sort of an aesthetic reason that you want more. But yeah, we had a lot of everything bagel puzzles at the beginning. So I think that one of the things that new setters often do, at least certainly our students, we have to get them past this, is if you're setting with software assistance and you get to a point that, oh, now there's a unique solution, there's sort of this, we have to get our students past the point of, oh, it's a unique solution, it must be solvable. And I don't think we ever went through that stage because we had already done enough solving ourselves that
we do have a couple of puzzles that
we have a couple that have some
brutal solutions,
some longer chains than we might include now, we'll put it that way. But really that idea of it doesn't have to be hard to be elegant or to be fun. I think that's the thing that certainly when I first started setting, I wanted to make really difficult puzzles, really tough puzzles. It shouldn't be. I really like making approachable puzzles. I like making puzzles that people can solve in 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes faster. Sometimes we make puzzles that are a lot harder than that. I enjoy those too, but as sort of a seasoning to the bulk of what we do, which are much more approachable puzzles. So yeah. More difficult is not equal to more better. Yeah.
Isaiah did ask, why do you normally set easier puzzles instead of harder ones? Which is a great question.
So I think that we set puzzles that we would like others to set for us.
Yes.
We're big fans of James Sinclair's puzzles, for example. And his scale of 1 to 10 probably translates, I would guess, to something like
1 to 2 stars on LMD.
2 stars on LMD, maybe 1 to low 3 stars. Even his 10-star, 9-star puzzles are reasonably approachable. If we're willing to put the time in. And the time being around half an hour, maybe a little longer. So we try and set puzzles we would like to solve, particularly because we're going to solve them.
But it's also I think is a little bit seasonal for us because during the academic year, finding the time and space to sit down to solve a harder puzzle is almost impossible. But during the summer or over winter break, that's when we can sit down and tackle 1.5, 2-hour puzzles. And that's also when we tend to set harder puzzles. So the amount of time and cognitive energy that we have to spend on either setting or solving really depends on what else is going on in our lives.
And also the difficulty level of a puzzle is all in the eye of the solver.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
We have set puzzles that we thought were relatively simple, that have taken good solvers significant amounts of time to solve.
And then we've set some other puzzles that we thought were difficult, but that's only because we missed a nice little break-in that other people spot. So really, a lot of it comes down to what constraints are you already really comfortable and familiar with? How do you think about puzzles? Puzzles that depend on set or break-in, I'm going to stare at for a couple hours and then probably walk away.
Yeah. If somebody says try set,
then
but we tend not to think of that.
Right. So we also don't set with it. We don't construct puzzles that rely on set because we don't set with set. But like learning to do the yin-yang sightlines puzzles, to set one of those, that's something that I want to continue playing around with and get better at, because I really do enjoy having that as a piece that we can tackle. So yeah, I like elegance. I like symmetry. I like simplicity, to some extent in puzzles. And I like puzzles that I can see something to do next without it being a lot of, I need to pencil mark every cell to see where there are restrictions. Yeah.
And I like puzzles that have moderate deductions. And this goes back to what DreamLibrarian said at the top of the interview. That our puzzles don't rely on one amazing break-in.
Typically,
they tend to have reasonable break-ins, but then you need to make some deductions along the way. At least I think our best puzzles have that.
And fair warnings. We said we've been putting up a puzzle every day. They're all decent puzzles, but
some of them are decent puzzles.
They're decent puzzles. Some of them are good puzzles, and some of them are really quite nice puzzles. But not every puzzle that goes up is going to be, because some days we're just like, we need to get a puzzle that is a decent puzzle. And so yeah, not all of them would make a my favorite puzzles list.
No,
but they're all decent. So yeah. Did we ever attempt to set a yin-yang puzzle that turned out to be broken from the start because of the yin-yang border parity? No, because Blobs is a genius, and we've only ever tried to set a single yin-yang puzzle, and we set it with Blobs, who already knows how to set them, and he very intelligently said, no, we start with the yin-yang pattern and then put the clues in around that. So that was very helpful to learn. So let's see. How does your collaborative setting process work? We start with a concrete idea and build from it. Sometimes it depends on the day.
So I woke up the other morning thinking I want to do something with 8 cages in 3 cells around the grid, trying to, and was it Pushy Night?
Is that what became Pushy? Yeah, I think so.
I think that's what became Pushy Night, which was actually the puzzle we put up today.
Yeah.
And I woke up with this idea of, well, if I have an 8 cage here and an 8 cage here and an 8 cage here and an 8 cage here, it's going to force things around the grid. Now, how do I want to fill in the rest of the grid with things that are going to make things work? Oh, let's use an anti-night constraint and then see what happens.
Yeah.
Other times we'll say, what constraint are we going to do?
Yeah. And sometimes one of us will have thought of, I'd like to do a puzzle with this title. What should be in a puzzle that would earn that title?
Yeah, there have been times when the title has driven the setting.
That's interesting.
But a lot of times it'll just be that we play with the constraint. Like, we haven't set anything with palindromes in a while. And so we'll start.
Yes, we have. We did one today.
Well, yeah, but that's why we did one with palindromes today, is because we hadn't done anything with palindromes for a while. We, of course, have a dead puzzles bank. It's not really a dead puzzles bank. It's a puzzles on life support bank. of things that don't work yet, but that we can go back to. And so sometimes when we're crunched for time, also we'll just pull out one of those and say, okay, how do we need to change this puzzle so that it is a good puzzle rather than a trash puzzle?
Yep. So Thermodis is a perfect example.
Yeah.
We had a puzzle called Thermodot, which had some deduction chains that were just too long. It had a unique solution. It had 3 thermos and disjoint groups constraint. And we decided it was not a good puzzle because there was no good route through from the beginning to the end that didn't go down some horribly long chains.
The beautiful break-in, beautiful end.
We managed to keep the beautiful break-in and the beautiful end and throw in a dot.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of Thermodis, it became Thermodot.
Yeah.
And that actually got solved by Mark, I think.
Yeah.
So, we do go back and revisit some of these. Yeah, that's not ready for prime time puzzles. Wow, what do we prefer for disambiguation at the end of the solve path? Kropki, XV, or givens?
Depends.
Yeah. I lean against givens unless I'm going to give more than one. If I'm giving more than one, I want to give them in nice patterny shapes.
Mm-hmm.
I think about the aesthetics of the puzzle. So I'm more likely to want to put in 2 givens or 4 givens than 1. Unless it's smack dab in the center.
Yeah.
In which case, we had one we put up recently that had a 5 in the middle. It wasn't actually necessary, but it was there for...
It smoothed the solve.
Smoothing the solve, and it worked. I mean, that was a puzzle with Girth symmetry. So you know that if there is a unique solution, the center is going to have to be, because of the type of Girth symmetry.
Yeah.
If there's a unique solution, the center is going to have to be a 5. So let's just give the 5.
We just gave the 5, yeah.
We just gave the 5.
But yeah, I mean, it depends. If we're not going to go with givens, Kropkis and XVs are always nice. But we'll try to avoid that if we already have 2 other constraints in the puzzle. We like to, these days especially, stick to 2 constraints, sometimes 3, but...
Yeah. Sometimes we'll go back and rework constraints in another part of the grid to try and encourage some cells to be helpful somewhere else.
Yeah. And we do tend towards symmetric puzzles.
That way I only have to set half as many digits.
That is not always true. They're not always girth symmetric. But we do like symmetry, visual symmetry.
Yeah.
We just find that visually pleasing. We don't always set them that way, but we will often start with something slightly symmetric in the grid and try to keep it. But
do you guys generally enjoy solving or setting more?
Yes. I mean, there's no
More than
answer
what?
to that. Yeah.
We
more than
enjoy
everything.
them both more than everything else.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one, which one would you pick?
There are times that we're like, I don't want to solve right now. Let's go set something. And other times that I don't want to set right now. Let's go solve something.
And vice versa.
And also, I don't feel like doing either. Let's go watch somebody solve. We certainly have we have a regular rotation of what we watch, and
and there's too many people to watch everything they do.
I know.
We've
which is wonderful in terms of having a buffet of choices, but I feel like I would like to watch all the solves that are out there from everybody, and I just don't have time to do that. So, yeah. So we like both. I mean, it really depends on so many other things. It is not I don't think I would want to. I certainly don't want to have to choose between only solving or only setting for the rest of my life. I might walk away from it if I had to give up either one of them, because they go hand in hand for me. So.
Yeah, I think that when I set things, I get more pleasure from it. When I'm solving things, I get great ideas. I love seeing what other people can do and being
Yeah.
amazed by the
Yeah.
deductions they've
Yeah.
built in, the break-in they built in. And oftentimes those puzzles will be the memorable ones.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the obvious example is the Miracle Sudoku that turned everything around in 2020. But then there's also one that James Sinclair did that was, I think, around the early 90s in his packs. That was a Renban puzzle with just gorgeous deductions that we've used ideas of a similar nature in setting our puzzles. I mean, the idea that if you have a 5-cell Renban, it has to have a 5 on it, and how those 5s can interact if you have enough Renbans can make for some beautiful logic.
Yeah.
And there are dozens of puzzles by all sorts of different constructors where we've gone, wow.
I wish I had said that.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
well, not just I wish I'd said that, but I wish I had had the ability to find something like that to set.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, I guess the question, if setting is inherently enjoyable, inherently pleasurable, would you set puzzles even if no one would solve them?
We did.
Yeah. I mean, we never really thought people would be solving our puzzles.
Well, actually, it's not quite true because we
Well,
did put them up in testing,
Yeah.
and people would mark them as solved, and that would give us a small thrill. But yeah, we've put puzzles up on LMB that have not had very many solves.
Yeah.
And that.
But I think that's a good question of if we knew that nobody would solve our puzzles, would we continue setting?
Like if
There
you
were
were
no
the
place to put them to share.
last person on Earth, would you still set puzzles for fun?
Yeah.
Not as many.
Not as many.
We would certainly not be putting out a puzzle a day.
Right. Right.
That would be a very strange choice. To put out a puzzle a day with no one solving.
Although to be fair, I have actually enjoyed solving whatever comes up as our random puzzle of the day, because we've been putting up a new puzzle each day, but we also had our website people do a random pull from the database. So there's also sort of a randomly chosen puzzle of the day that is not new. It's from the archive, so it is possibly 2 years old or so. And so I've been trying to solve those most days. I don't always do it. And that's been kind of fun. And there have been some puzzles that I'm like, what were we thinking? What did we build into this puzzle? There's a step here that I'm not getting. This has had 40 solves, but I'm not sure I was one of them. It's
Was that today?
that might possibly have been today. Yes. So yeah, no, I mean, I think that continuing to set the puzzle a day so that as we get older and forget what we've done, we have puzzles we can do.
Well, that's true.
That's a good thing, although there's plenty of other people's puzzles as well.
Yeah. GDC asks,
how do we decide which puzzles to solve?
Well, there's a bunch of people, GDC among them, whose puzzles we like.
Yeah.
And we will look at testing. We will look at LMD.
Right now we've actually got we spend so much time testing our students' puzzles that we don't get as much time to just go exploring LMD or the archives as we would like. We are testers for several folks whose names we won't reveal. And so that gives us a steady stream as well of puzzles that we test and give feedback on. So
we love James Sinclair's.
Yeah, we'll do artisanal Sudoku.
We typically do a couple of those a week.
Yeah.
Or maybe sometimes, some weeks we'll do all of them, but we'll always do one or two of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So pretty much that's the string is we look in, what do we have to test for our students? What do we have to test for the people for whom we do testing? Which I said we wouldn't say names, but we will say, because we've been asked this before, we do not test for cracking the cryptic. Don't send things to us to try to, we have no pull. That is not us. So who's testing for Mark and Simon? And then if we run out of any of the Patreon packs that we get, which include artisanal, well, that's not Patreon, but
But it's a paid pack.
Yeah, and then we get, the monthly packs from the various Patreons that we subscribe to. Then after all of those are exhausted,
And then there's gas channel and
right, well, there's gas,
channel.
dailies, but then we also go to LMD, and mostly we look for recent 1, 2, and 3-star puzzles that
look interesting.
Yeah, and so we'll click on it. And what makes something look interesting?
Oftentimes not having a kitchen sink thrown at it.
Yeah. Unless it's from somebody that we already know is a tester a setter that we really enjoy their puzzles, and so there's a reason to say, yeah, let's give this a shot. But the kitchen sink, usually if we're at that point of we've gone through a bunch of other puzzles at other places, we're looking for something that's not going to require us to learn something too terribly new, because we're probably tired.
Yeah, and then there's testing sheets that people have put out together where they have puzzle packs that they're building, or things like that.
Yeah.
And we'll regularly try and help with those.
Yeah. So on LMD, I like 1 and 2-star puzzles that, and sometimes we'll go through LMD and look for puzzles that haven't been rated yet. We'll specifically look for things that are at like 10, 11, 12, 13 solves that don't have a rating yet, because we know what a misery that is to have a puzzle that's just languishing in the unrated category. Yeah, if
anybody wants to go and solve Mo Double,
go for it. It's a good puzzle, but we probably underestimated it. Maybe 4-star instead of 3. Really fun puzzle. So that's it. We look for things in terms of what looks interesting to us. The same sorts of things we like to set with. We like simplicity in the grid. We like some symmetry in the grid. I like being able to look at a puzzle and sort of know, oh, yes, I recognize those constraints. I'm not going to have to go learn something too terribly new, or maybe there's one new thing. So, but that'll probably, again, change over the summer, because we're now coming into the period where we're going to have more time to think and relax and play. And so I'm probably going to be looking at some yin-yang puzzles, and we don't do many path puzzles or snake puzzles. I might try to do some of those just for fun.
And I want to start doing more Mod 4 puzzles.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. We have another modular line constraint that is mod 4 rather than mod 3. But it's tricky because neither of the platforms we set on have this implemented yet.
Because it's not mod 4 where every 4 adjacent cells along a line have different remainders when divided by 4. It's just every 3, and it allows for branching. And so that requires that we set entirely by hand and by eliminating possibilities, or doing something
painfully complicated.
Yes, a painful workaround in Sudoku Maker. So we sometimes go off in different directions. I will often actually come in and find that Missing has been solving artisanal Sudoku without me, and I get grumpy. But yeah.
All right, maybe we should try to do these rapid fire questions.
All right, we will talk forever. So
not sure how we want to do this. Do you guys want to answer these individually or as a pair? It's like one or the other option. What do you guys think?
Why don't you ask them and we'll answer as seems appropriate?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. High-lowity or odd-evenity?
Oh, interesting. So for whisper lines, we use hilarity, actually. We like instead of high-lowity or polarity. We like hilarity. It just makes us laugh, as it were.
We tried saying that on a couple of videos and it just didn't take off.
Didn't take off, no. But odd-evenity, no, we'll call that parity.
Yeah.
You get the next one.
Local or global adaptations?
Think globally, act locally.
There you
go. Coloring or good living?
Yes, We like coloring, but we also goodliff in conjunction with the coloring, particularly for things like, we love modular lines, we love entropy, and similar sorts of constraints. And their coloring is really helpful. Visually, it allows you to see things that you won't see if you goodliff. We tend to try not to goodliff to extremes. So typically no more than 4 center marks in a cell. Any more than that, we've probably overdone it. We've thought about trying to introduce FullDeck, which is the reverse of goodliffing, where you mark the things that cannot go in that cell.
That's
But FullDeck also has not taken off. Yeah.
Also, there's no software that allows you to do it.
Simple or complex?
Simple.
Yeah.
I mean, not too simple. I want a puzzle to challenge me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want to be able to get through it in a reasonable amount of time. Realistic time puzzles.
Yeah.
Favorite digit to
when
dance
when
to?
I teach computing.
Oh yeah.
Sorry?
I went on to the next one, but you can go ahead. Yeah.
When I teach students computing, I try and emphasize the concept of realistic time. So if they need an answer by the end of 6 months in order to do something that's worth $1 billion, realistic time is get it done within 6 months. If I'm doing something in a class and I need to have the answer pop up on the screen before the end of the class, realistic time may be 5 minutes. So I think the same thing is true of puzzles. Puzzles need for me to be doable in realistic time. In the summer, on a quiet summer's day, when we've both got cognitive energy to spare, realistic time might be 4 hours.
Yeah.
Or 2 hours. But during the semester, when things are busy, realistic time might be 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
That sort of colors the simple versus complex answer.
Favorite digit to dance to?
8.
Same answer for all of you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, great digit. It's a lemniscate on its side. It's infinite in its aspect. It's like a Möbius strip. I could rave on about the benefits of 8.
I'm guessing that he thought that was going to be the one that we had the most hesitation over, not the previous ones.
Geometry or arithmetic? That's interesting.
Oh, no, don't make me choose.
Yeah,
No, I love geometric deductions. I love arithmetic deductions, and I love arithmogeometric deductions.
Yeah.
I love putting geometry and arithmetic together within a deduction.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the reasons I like cages so much.
Yeah.
Okay, Penpa, F puzzles, Sudoku maker, or something else?
F puzzles for the power, Sudoku maker for the ease of interface,
and having constraints built in that work for you.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
That getting F puzzles to be consistent across all of our laptops has been challenging.
Yeah.
So my laptop will happily do modular lines on F puzzles. Yours will not.
No.
And we haven't managed to figure out why.
Reinstalled multiple times, just won't do it. So, yeah.
Sudoku or pencil puzzles?
Sudoku.
Chaos or order?
Order.
Oh, yeah.
At least certainly chaos construction or ordered construction.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer in certain areas of mathematics being relevant here, which is that Ramsey theory says that no matter how disordered you want to make something, you'll always find something that looks like order. And I would love to have a puzzle that looks like it has no rhyme or reason to it, but once you solve it, you realize there is an order hidden behind it.
I know what you'll be doing this summer. by yourself.
Yeah, I'm not going to do chaos constructions.
Yeah, okay, good.
Big or little?
I'm not quite sure. I mean,
How to address that?
yeah. I mean,
I need those to be modifiers, and modifiers need to modify something.
yes, give us a noun.
Philip Newman says wave, so maybe wave is the noun.
Big
Big
wave or
wave,
little wave?
little
Little
wave.
wave, definitely. I've eaten too much sand in the Pacific, so yes.
Okay.
And waves back to
And
Philip.
wave back to Philip. Yeah,
Wave back
hello,
to Philip in
Philip.
Sudoku.
Digital or analog?
So I go with digital computers because they tend to work better for me than analog computers. I have an analog watch with quartz behind it, so it is somewhat computational.
So, just one of the things that we did with our Mathematics of Magic, Perception, and Illusion class this past semester was help them with their patter, because when you're doing a magic trick, you need to have patter that sort of leads the audience along, that fills the time gaps when you're trying to do part of the trick, that allows you to time the trick so that the reveal
Make up
happens.
for a mistake.
Make up for a mistake. And they were having a lot of trouble with this. So we introduced them to something from Missing's Misspent Youth called Just 1 Minute.
Just a minute.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Sorry, my apologies.
It's a radio show in which the host has a bunch of celebrities on and challenges them, giving them a topic on which they have to speak for a minute without hesitation, repetition, or what was the other one?
Digression.
Or digression. So they have to stay on topic without repetition and without
hesitation.
The students. I think they grew to like this by the end of the
They
course.
did. They were terrified by it. They were very bad at it. They got much better at it, and they seemed to enjoy it by the end. So that was when you were just spouting off in response to that prompt. I just had this just a minute moment that you were. We can fill a minute on anything you toss at us. It may not make sense and it may not be true. So.
Okay.
One of the rules we gave the students was it does not have to be accurate.
Yes, it does not have to be true.
So one of the students was from Britain, and she talked about the role of cheerleaders in cricket.
Yes.
And anybody who's watched cricket will know that the role of cheerleaders in cricket is zero.
Okay. Cages or lines?
Lines for me. Cages for you, I'm guessing.
No. I mean, cages and lines, and particularly the interaction between them.
Yes, for sure.
We love the interactions between the arithmetic of cages and the arithmetic of modular lines, or the arithmetic of entropic lines. And again, the idea of pushing information around the grid on a long line, using a cage here and a cage here to determine the entire line's coloring.
Yeah.
We love that sort of idea.
Good fun, yeah.
Okay, arrows.
I would not want to set with lines without cages, at least as an available tool. So, yeah.
Arrows or dots?
Dots are more versatile.
Yeah. I like arrows. I tend not to like multi-digit pill arrows quite as much as regular arrows, but I prefer dots.
Indexers or chess constraints?
Chess constraints.
Although, no, we do enjoy indexing puzzles.
We do.
We've set a few that we've enjoyed. We have not set enough indexing puzzles to love them the way we should.
That's true. We should set some indexing puzzles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With
chess constraints.
Chess constraints, yes.
We've sort of already touched on this, but to disambiguate a puzzle, a given or an extra rule, like a crafty dot or something.
It used to be that I was just
loath to give
give digits at all. I've gotten away from that. I think that, somebody asked earlier about what do we wish we had known at the beginning that we, and I think that being willing to give digits has been a growth point for us.
It's a tool in your toolbox, right? So
it is, but it's one that sort of gets maligned, at least internally for me. So, numbered rooms. We have done a numbered rooms puzzle.
We've done several. Our students have started setting numbered room puzzles.
Right, and we started setting numbered room puzzles mostly to try to figure out what our students were doing.
Actually, somebody asked earlier what we have learned from our students.
Yes.
We learned there were constraints out there we weren't aware of. So I first became aware of zipper lines when our students set a zipper
lines puzzle. Yeah. So, yeah. Parity party is indexing for... I think we've solved that one, Realm. So, yeah.
Outside or inside clues?
I have a fondness for outside clues. I like skyscrapers. I like exomes.
Oh, yeah. And I like outside clues.
And we like little killers. And we like the outside, yeah.
Yeah. So we solved a number of puzzles by Maggie and Bremster.
Yes.
That had outside clues. That clues outside the grid said those digits had to appear in the first 3 cells seen from that direction.
Yeah.
And really enjoyed those. And we set a small number of puzzles with those. We've been thinking about some other types of outside clues giving information about cells near the boundary.
Yeah.
And we should think about that tomorrow. Maybe
we should,
that's the puzzle we first set tomorrow. And inside clues, Bremster and Maggie have this wonderful tritabs constraint that they've just introduced, which I think has a lot of promise.
Yes.
And once we figure out how to do the cosmetics of it, the setting of it will require an awful lot of going in and removing digits.
Yeah.
Or placing center marks. But it's
tritabs penguin.
Yeah, a lovely, lovely constraint.
Yes.
So outside and inside.
Yes.
Yeah. Cheese or bread?
Oh, that's a painful point at the moment.
No, cheese and bread.
Cheese, yes. Depends on the cheese. Cheshire is his choice. Cheddar for me.
I'm a strong fan of Cheshire cheese, which is, you can get it in Canada, at least in the East Coast and Ontario. I don't know whether you can get it in Calgary, but it's almost impossible to find here in the Southeast. So when we went up to Nova Scotia in March, I brought back about 8 pounds of Cheshire cheese.
So come visit us, Philip. We've got Cheshire cheese. So.
Join the crush of people, Philip, pestering Whole Foods to stock Cheshire cheese.
That would be you?
Exactly.
Yes. So Philip, there's a cheddar cheese, Montemore, that's very crumbly and lovely. That's my favorite cheddar. So if you can find Montemore cheddar, it's a nice one.
Yeah.
So, and Missing makes absolutely phenomenal bread. So,
but I'm also on a low carb regime at the moment for various good reasons. So I'm missing bread at the moment.
Yes, that's why the bread and cheese question was a painful one. So
I see. Good or evil?
To us?
Yeah.
We're inherently good, but presenting as evil.
I think of myself as being chaotic neutral at times.
So one of our students introduced us to ChatGPT the day after it was announced, and showed us how to prompt. It showed us that you could not ask ChatGPT to talk about real individuals, or even necessarily fake individuals. And so he prompted it to tell a story about two Sudoku setters,
Professors.
two professors who set variant Sudoku. And it told a story about two evil math professors, FullDeck and missing a few cards, who like to set puzzles so hard their students can barely complete them.
Their students weep. Yes. But they were defeated by their students who successfully solved the gauntlet of puzzles. And they learned from the error of their ways and went on to continue to set puzzles, but not be quite so evil.
Oh,
So, yes.
Yeah, we aim to.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, lawful or chaotic? Last question.
Chaotic.
Sorry, what was the question?
Lawful or chaotic?
Lawful.
There you have it.
At odds. All right.
Sissy.
Hey, Graham.
What other questions should we touch before we run out of time? We have 5 minutes left. Is there a question that you want to be asked that we didn't get to?
Yeah.
Go for it.
What's our names?
I'm FullDeck.
Those are our secret identities.
Yeah.
Actually, those are our non-secret identities. What are our secret
What are our
identities?
secret identities? We have outed ourselves in the most recent Signet Sudoku book.
We've decided we don't need to hide behind the veil of anonymity that Mark and Simon had so successfully penetrated.
Repeatedly.
So, yes, I'm Neil, and this is
I'm Eliza.
And
Nice to meet
if
you.
you search the math
Thank you.
department website at Clemson, I think I'm the only Neil, and I think you're the only Eliza.
Possibly.
Certainly is.
Yeah.
Certainly is associate or full professors. So
Yeah. Philip says, just take your glasses off and there you go.
but then I can't read the comments.
Yeah, right. So yeah, so we do welcome people getting in touch with us.
Absolutely.
Either through the website, on Discord, or through our work addresses, especially if you're interested in doing some of the connecting with some of what we're doing for the teaching or the research related to variant Sudoku.
Both Philip and Bremson there.
Yep.
Perfect comments.
Totally, yes, absolutely. Right there. So
One question that we didn't get to is 99% Sneaky asked, what is your favorite colors for shaded and unshaded cells?
well,
Let's answer a different question, if we may, first.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Which is for modular lines,
what are the correct colors?
the colors we use for the classes 1 mod 3, 2 mod 3, and 0 mod 3 are the bottom of the columns on the keypad in the standard colors on Sudoku pad.
And we
So
know not everybody does it that way.
Not
but-
everybody does it this way. But red means 1, 4, and 7. Yellow means 2, 5, and 8. And blue means 3, 6, and 9.
Yes. So when we're solving, if we're ever solving, it's like, that's blue. We know exactly what we mean. It has those colors are fixed for us.
Yeah.
As those.
Now for shading and unshading cells, unshaded cells are always shaded for us.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, we have green for one of them and maybe gray for the other.
Or green and yellow, or green and
Something that's
something-
a good contrast for us.
yeah.
Neither of us is colorblind. We do
We
appreciate
try to pay
people,
attention a little bit, but yeah.
particularly if we're solving online.
Oh, that's what you use for entropy penguin. Yeah. So see, for us, we use the next row up for entropy. So yeah. But yeah, so the shaded unshaded has always bothered me. I think that's one of the things that
It's a phrasing we wish we could.
because you do wind
reintroduce.
up shading both of them, right? So there's not an unshaded color because you need to keep track of, oh, I've decided this is unshaded, so I'm going to shade
Shade
it. So we like two colors instead of that. That helps my brain wrap around it. So
Everyone will hate me for
Don't you
saying
think you're
that
getting
I
the colors
just
wrong?
pick a random color and then make that one of the things.
Yeah.
I don't have a set color for anything.
interesting.
The trouble with that is I can never remember which color represents which.
Right.
So we use yellow and blue for high and low for whispers. Parity, we use blue and orange. Blue for even and orange for odd, which is ridiculous because 9 is odd and 6 is even. But that's building off what Simon used when I first saw a parity puzzle being solved.
We really like Brimster's blue and yellow for high and low, so we've adopted that. That really works well. So,
All right, as David Ratner points out, that brings us to 2 hours. It's flown by.
Crazy. This has been a lot of fun, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk.
Yes.
Ad nauseum about things we love. So.
Thank you for coming on and talking ad nauseum.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Before we wrap it up, you guys have the opportunity to announce who's the next to be interviewed. Do you remember? I sent it to you on Discord.
I think we
I do.
But we'll probably say it wrong if we don't. Give us a moment. Yes.
Wisteria, which I think
I was right. I think
we think is a wonderful choice. Excellent choice.
Yes. So
we're
Wisteria,
really looking forward to that.
Yes, definitely.
We've enjoyed a bunch of their puzzles in the past, and we'll love to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be interesting. Wisteria's interview will be in a couple weeks. Need a little bit of time to paint my apartment, but we will be back.
Wait, are you going to paint it a wisteria blue?
Yes. Are you going to shade the unshaded cells? Unshaded walls?
Yes, I'll have to pick up my shaded and unshaded so that I can paint my walls. But thank you, everyone. Yes, thank you, everyone on screen, and as well, thank you to our Patreon supporters are also on screen now. And yeah, as to you as well, Michael. And that's everything. Thank you guys so much for coming on and talking.
You're most welcome. We really enjoyed this.
We really did.
I did.
I did too.
Yes,
so
we
thank
really
you so
enjoyed
much.
this.
And thank you for all the wonderful questions from everybody who came. Thanks for everybody who came.
And thanks for doing this Sudoku series in general, because it's such a lovely resource.
It is.
Yeah, it's a good time. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming out. Have a good rest of your week. Bye.